All rise and shout. It's time for What's Trending. The transfer portal is open.
We need more depth in the front seven. These things that I'm telling you are absolutely clear. What the coaches need to do and what the players need to do in order to get better.
We all live in a society of gimme, 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 now, now, now. I don't want to wait. We're an impatient culture, and especially as sports fans, that includes BYU fans for sure.
No.
It's part of the deal. So the question now is, after a 5-7 football season and BYU missing just their second bowl game in the Kalani Sitake era in 8 years, what's going to make BYU football better the fastest? Is it the magical solution in the transfer portal, an early Christmas gift that restores championship dreams, or is it going to be the build with new coaching hires for a team like BYU?
It is both, but let's discuss. To me, it's the portal.
Really?
There are more players and people that can have a faster impact, I think. It's both. There's not a strong argument for one or the other, but let's make the argument for starters or for players just because. Okay, I looked at the roster last year and who had come in and who had made an impact. To me, there were 14 players that stuck out among the, 31 transfers. Here they are: Eddie Heckard and A.J. Vongpachan, Keaton Slovis, Aiden Robbins, Darius Lassiter. I'll keep going. Camden Garrett, Jake Retzloff, Keelan Marion, Paul Miley, Waylon Lapuahu, Caleb Etienne, Harrison Taggart, Will Farrell, Jackson Craven stick out. I almost had Isaiah Banya on this. He had 1 tackle for loss. I need more from Isaiah Banya. Sure, put him on the list. Whatever, 15. Did he announce he's coming back, by the way? I haven't heard. It sounded like he was last night, but we'll see. There are, and there's a handful of those guys that are gone. Heckard, Vongpachan, Slovis, Robbins, potentially. Lassiter might get another year. We'll see.
We think
Garrett, Miley look like they're done. You need a lot of guys. Do you need the same amount that you got last year? Hopefully not, because like Retzloff, Marion, Lapuaho, Etienne, Taggart, Farron, Cravens, they're still here. They're still, or is Jackson done? He was graduating. He might be done. But you need a lot of guys. I don't think that BYU needs the same amount that they got last year. But really it's about get quality talent at every position, every position, and create good depth, create good competition, and then see who plays and what kind of impact they can have. I'm not opposed to – I also want the returning players to have an impact as well. Like Bodie Schoonover or whatever, he's been waiting a minute. Maybe he's one of the guys, and Isaiah Glasker and the Kafusis and whatnot, a linebacker. But to me, if you can bring in a lot of good talent that meshes and makes sense, and they're coached well, that's the ultimate combination, right? It's not really one or the other in this discussion. Certainly coaching the same players can change things like men's basketball has with that continuity. But you need to have talented players in place to do so. Like if the coaches don't have enough talent, they can only coach them up so much. So I say bring them in, baby. And you see the numbers, and in terms of once the portal – like the rule of the transfers, one-time transfer, no penalty happened. Obviously, you see the numbers, and what BYU brought in last year was significantly more, almost 4 times, what they had. A lot went out. In fact, I think the number was 31 in. I don't think it was 21. But if you're counting JUCO and everything. So to me, if I have to pick one, I'm probably doing number of players.
It's kind of a symbiotic relationship because I look at the coaches that were brought in just last year. The reason that Eddie Heckard and Cam Garrett are at BYU is because BYU hired Jay Hill.
Well, then now what?
So how can BYU, whoever they hire as the offensive line coach, whether it's Jeff Grimes or not, and whoever they hire as the tight ends coach, will those guys then naturally bring in some dudes that are going to be impact players like that?
Side effect, though, not primary objective. Side effect.
How much better... And this is not me digging for you to say, try to prove my point or anything. I'm just legitimately asking, how much better do you feel like BYU's defense was? Straight up, from one year to the next.
I don't know.
Do you feel like they took a significant step forward, a little step forward?
Mucho más.
Okay, mucho más. Okay, you're like me. I feel like BYU's defense, while the statistics in some games, were not great, overall, did we not all collectively as a fan base feel like, okay, this defense took they took a step forward.
This just in, BYU played the 10th toughest schedule in America.
And they played a top 10 schedule
That has to be
in difficulty.
Yeah. Last year, if last year's defense played this year, BYU wins like the 2 games at the beginning of the season and maybe one more. I'm dead serious.
Jay Hill had a significant impact. Yes, he brought impact players with him by nature of the beast, but if you get the right coach in the right position, it does not take long. I wondered when we brought him in, like, is it going to be enough? You know,
him being Jay Hill?
Yeah. Like when BYU brought Jay Hill in, like, are we being unfair to him if we expect like this major change? And so I was a little bit slow last year to say, or to fully embrace, like, oh, it's going to be way better. Like, I thought it would be better, but I was ready to just take like a little step. BYU took a big step. Coaching matters. Coaching really matters.
No one's arguing
if
about
BYU hires the right offensive line coach, because the offensive line was so underperforming last year, it could make a significant difference. So I lean towards coaching just because maybe the recency bias of having witness of what Jay Hill did and what he did on the defensive side of things. Like, it was a massive step forward. But he's a coordinator, so how much is that different than a position coach like the offensive line? I don't know. Like,
Jay coached the safeties up, and they were playing 3rd and 4th stringers sometimes.
And they were, for the most part, holding their own. Ethan Slade was like a dude. Are you kidding? He wasn't even on. He was the 4th string safety when the season began.
2nd or 3rd string at one position, but yeah, like
Tanner Wall then. Sorry, was the 4th string.
Yeah, Tanner Wall was playing a bunch. Yeah,
and playing well.
Depends if you're talking strong or free or whatever, but like, yeah, absolutely. No one's arguing that coaches cannot make a huge influence. Like, if Jeff Grimes is the offensive line coach last year, do we feel like the O-line is awesome?
100%.
Do we feel like they're good?
We feel like they're better.
Well, that's an indictment, right? Yeah, coaching totally can have a massive influence. I do think, though, that given losses, you need to replace guys and bring in even more guys to compete. This is the way, I believe, it is always going to be now with the current rules of transfer portal and NIL. I think the era previous is absolutely gone. You're not stashing RMs that in 5 years from when you sign them will start to have an impact in their junior year. Like, there will be those guys still, but they will be fewer and farther between than they have been in the past. Now, you need guys that come in. You need more A.J. Vongpachans than you need stashed RMs.
Sure.
You need more impact guys. I don't want it to be year-to-year, 4-month rentals, although you have to have a handful of those for sure.
Was BYU in a position where they needed to add more because of the Power 5 jump? Like,
yes.
I'm not anticipating that BYU will have to add as many pieces.
BYU freaked out in terms of, hey, urgency of we need to up our standard. BYU cut some guys that we thought were going to play going into the season because they didn't feel like they were good enough for Power 5 Big 12 football. Remember, Jay Hill and Kalani were at Utah and part of that transition. They saw what it took for Utah to get up to speed. They've been trying to do that right with BYU. And BYU is a game off of expectation against a tough schedule. Was it disappointing and underwhelming a little bit? Yeah, absolutely. But they weren't super far off kind of year one hopes. It's a couple of plays. It's a couple of players. It's maybe a coach or two here or there that make a difference. And then next year, hey, go to a bowl game, keep building, keep moving forward, and now you're starting to attract even better talent. And obviously NIL, you got to pay some of the stars a certain amount if you want to get them.
Sure.
And that's part of this deal. It's not what it was before where you can say, hey, like your primary stuff isn't, hey, it's BYU. Hey, we can do more. There's all those, they still exist. But if you don't match the money for some guys or get close to it, you're going to be out of the running for certain guys that you may have gotten in the past.
Here's the thing that I'll finish with, and again, why I lean toward coaches, is you can bring in phenomenal talent. BYU brought in, like, BYU's offensive line we thought was going to be great. Aaron Roderick literally said, we have upgraded at every single position except maybe quarterback where there's a wash. That's a tough receipt to swallow, right? It is. If the coaching is not in place for said talent, then to me, what are you doing? Like, you
But we'll rarely be in that spot, though. We're not Texas A&M here.
But you still
will
need
not be in that
coaches.
spot.
I'm not saying BYU is going to have as much talent as Texas A&M, but you can bring in all the talent you want. If you do not have the right coaches to make that talent a cohesive unit, you're in trouble. You need the right coaches, regardless of how many 3 stars, 4 stars, and in some instances 5 stars you bring in. Like, if you can't corral that type of talent and get it in the right place and figure out how to position each of those guys to succeed. That's why I lean towards coaching. Like, the players are good, but they can only do so much until the coaches put them in the right position to succeed. Yeah, it's a funny dynamic. Can we just have both? Can BYU just get awesome?
And you can't, BYU can't be like 3-ish star guys and good coaches and do anything in the Big 12 other than make a bowl game. If BYU is going to compete for a Big 12 title, you have to get into the 4-star game and good coaches. You have to start to get into
We thought that they were leaning toward that position going into year 1 of the Big 12. Like, yeah.
More 4 stars. Yeah, types. Not enough.
Yeah, tough. Like, recruiting is the lifeblood of a program for sure, whether it's at a high school or it's in the transfer portal.
It is in the church.
Sure.
Missionary work, like same thing.
Our question of the day.
Recruiting.
What do you think? What's going to make BYU football better, faster?
Money.
The transfer portal or the new incoming coaching hires? Jason Holder on X says, the right coach can make a 3-star play like a 5-star. So I would say the coach. Yeah, it kind of goes to what I was just talking about.
That helps for sure.
Development, elevating.
But get you a 4-star that's further along. That's what I'm saying.
That helps.
Like more of those. You still need to get the 3-star. There will be fewer opportunities for the Tyler Algier stories at BYU, though, because they just don't have time. You're in the Big 12. You have to be urgent about it. So that's tough because the Tyler Algier story is one of the best in BYU history. You got to win now. There's not time to develop. These coaches aren't like, hey, give us time. You're going to get fired if you don't do your job well in a single season or 2.
On to topic 2 we go. Football up, basketball in.
How has men's basketball 7-0 start altered your expectations for the year?
Well, I fully expect BYU to be an NCAA tournament team now. So that has my expectations going into the season where it'd be great if BYU could figure out a way to win 17 games. Heck, have a winning record, be 16-15 in the regular season. Maybe go to Kansas City and win a game in the Big 12 Conference. Like, my expectation was hopefully BYU would be somewhere in the NIT and they'd win enough games to be involved in the new format of the NIT. I now expect BYU to be an NCAA tournament team. At worst, I think they're going to go 12-1 in non-conference play. And I think this team is fully capable of winning at least 7 Big 12 conference games. They can go 7-11 like West Virginia did last year. And by the way, I need to correct myself. I had a kind Iowa State fan reach out to me and say, Spencer, I was watching your program today. And I'm like, wow, why are you watching our program?
That's awesome.
But that's cool.
Fantastic.
Okay, welcome Iowa State fans. He said, you said Iowa State went 7-11. We went 9-9 last year.
9-9.
It was West Virginia who went 7-11, but still got a single-digit seed. They were a 9 seed. Iowa was 9-9. Iowa State was 9-9.
Yeah, don't mix those two.
I expect BYU to win at least 7 Big 12 conference games. Couple that with at least a 12-1. Jarom, they're 19-12 going into the tournament in Kansas City, and have a shot to win a 20th game and probably be like a 7 or an 8 seed. That's kind of where my expectations lie.
I have no opinion that is different from anything you said. A twofer Tuesday question of the day is this. How has BYU basketball's 7-0 start altered your expectations for this season, okay? In the control room, they're like, whoa, we're moving on. Daniel Rigby on X. Literally, I think the same exact thing. This is one of those days where I hate where we have the same thing. Some guys have really taken a step forward, notably Robinson and Waterman. I think this is a tournament team, but the conference schedule's rough. No more cupcakes come January.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and listen, it's what BYU is doing in non-conference is awesome, and they have to do it to have a chance, right?
Sure.
But now we're feeling like, oh, in league, it's not going to be as bad as we thought. Like, initially, we were thinking, hey, man, like, you're hoping to beat UCF twice. You're hoping to beat Cincy at home. You're hoping to steal a couple more.
Maybe beat Oklahoma State at home.
4 or 5 wins. Like, now we're like, okay, can you get to 7+? Because if you get to 7+, you are in the NCAA tourney range. Who knows? On the high end of this, BYU could be like 5th or 6th in the league.
That was my follow-up question.
Yeah,
what's the realistic ceiling for BYU once they get into the Big 12?
I don't know how to rationalize both those in the same sense. The realistic ceiling is like a 4 or 5 seed.
That you win 10 games, like you're 10-8 in conference.
Yeah, you're 10-8 in league, and you were 5th or 6th, and this league is so good that's okay. And you get like a double bye, and maybe you lose that, or you win that in Kansas City or whatever. But like you have so many quad 1 wins, because if you win 10 in the Big 12, and San Diego State's going to be a quad 1, we think, like you've got plenty for a 4 or 5 seed. But like to be a top 7 seed where you are clearly a favorite in that first round game and expected to win that first one would be awesome. If you're at an 8-9, that's a pick'em. Frankly, a 5-12 is a pick'em. When it comes to actual percentages, but a 5 is expected to beat a 12 out of Vegas.
Sure.
That would be awesome.
Especially in a conference tournament.
Again, I'll keep saying this. I got to wait till halfway through conference play where I really can say, okay, I know exactly what this BYU team is. It's one thing to play NC State and Arizona State. San Diego State is a Big 12 equivalent. It is another to get into Big 12 play and play that amount of, like football did, brutal games back to back, like 18 in a row.
Yeah. See, NC State kind of feels like a team like Oklahoma State or a Cincinnati that BYU is certainly going to see in the Big 12.
One of what we think is one of the more winnable games, but things change. See Oklahoma State football at the beginning of the year. Like, things can change. Things can change with BYU. Like, it's going very well right now, and it's awesome, and I love every second of it.
You don't have to look far to know what type of model it would take for BYU to be a 6 seed like they were the last time they got into the NCAA tournament. And that is, again, to do what Iowa State did. You go 9-9 in Big 12 play, coupled with a 12-1 non-conference record.
9 wins in that league is awesome.
Say hello to a 6 seed.
I'll take 8 and 10. I'll
right?
take 7 and
that could be a 7 seed or an 8 seed for crying out loud.
I'm not picky about the seed at the moment. I got to see BYU play halfway through Big 12.
But you expect BYU to be an NCAA tournament team at this point?
Yes. Your opinion.
Yes.
Was NIT, now it's NCAA.